Hi everybody, it's Paddy here again. Today I'm joined by Paul Davis from Davis Consultants. Paul's going to talk to us today about fear. So I'll hand straight over to you, Paul.
Sure, not a problem. Thanks, Paddy. Okay, I suppose for a lot of people right now at the moment, fear is one of those things that literally paralyzes us. What I want to cover in this particular session today is look at how do we address fear immediately and as quickly as possible, and how do we dissolve fear? Just to give you a bit about my background, I set up my own consultancy business in 2001. I work with a lot of people as in business owners, helping them to grow and scale their businesses. But during the recession, a lot of the time where the work that I was doing was actually helping them from an individual perspective, as in how do they manage the recession, how do they manage their business, how do they keep their mind straight from the perspective of dealing with everything that's going on with them, and literally keep focused on what needs to be done. I've a huge background in this particular area. It's one of my passions by way of maximizing the mental fitness is what the term I prefer to use is mental fitness. So how do we maximize the performance of our minds in order to bring about what we actually want to achieve? And there's a lot of reasons why I focus in on that particular area. COVID-19 has now created another scenario whereby, look at the world as we knew it has literally been thrown out the window. So what we knew, or what we now know, is completely different, and we're literally in the process of creating a brand new world. If you're looking at your business right now at the moment and saying, "Well, I want to get it back to the way it was before," my suggestion is to actually look at a brand new blueprint. I'm telling my clients, I'm telling the mastermind groups that I'm working with, literally throw out the blueprint that you had before and recreate the blueprint that you want going forward. Now, what happens is with individuals, they look at, okay, so how do I run the business? But equally, they're constantly being drawn back to fear, to worry, to what's going to happen, what do I do, and all that kind of thing. So while they're in that mode, they can't focus and deal with the business itself, be creative, be innovative, be objective in relation to what needs to be done. So what I want to cover is a couple of different exercises that you can do very, very quickly in order to actually move you from the fear situation to a lot more executive and objective view in relation to your business itself. Just to give you a bit of an understanding, there's seven different types of fear. There's two in particular that show up right now at the moment. One is the fear of failure. Now, fear of failure comes around, well, I'm not going to be the success that I thought I was going to be. I'm not going to achieve the levels of what I wanted to actually achieve. So we have this fear of, oh, I'm a failure as a result of not achieving what we wanted to achieve. Then there's the fear of loss of something. So fear of loss might be our business, it might be time, it might be money, it might be even a relationship, it might be property like our house or a car or whatever it might be, and so on. So it's a fear that we're going to lose something. So they're the two primary fears that show up right now at the moment. Now, what you've got to understand when it comes to fear is an anticipation of a future event that we perceive is at risk to ourselves. I want to repeat that. Fear is the anticipation of a future event that we perceive is at risk to ourselves. Now, therefore, the reason why I repeat it, because I want to pull out two particular words. A, it's a future event. It hasn't happened yet. Secondly, we perceive it, meaning it's a thought. So therefore, it actually hasn't happened. So therefore, how do we dissolve what actually goes on? Now, what happens when fear comes up in our minds, we default to, now, most people will be familiar with the amygdala part of the brain, but we default to the amygdala. And for those that aren't familiar with that part of the brain, literally the amygdala is responsible for all our emotions. It creates a situation where we freeze, we fight, or we flight. It's one of those particular situations of how we typically react. But a lot of the amygdala controls literally our fears, our anxieties, our emotions actually start to build up. And what tends to happen when we get stuck in the amygdala, it's a case of we constantly run that circle of, well, what's going to happen? What's the worst case scenario? It's all about the future. It's all about what it's doomsday scenarios. We can create the most amazing pictures in our mind. That's how powerful our minds are. The other part of the brain, which is where I work with a lot of clients in order to actually get them operating from this part of the brain, is what's referred to as the executive center. Now, the executive center is responsible. Its whole purpose is being objective, creative, innovative, and the whole point of it is to try, how do I get from A to Z in the fastest, the easiest, and less costly way possible. The less costly is from the point of view of, in terms of time, or energy, and money, everything, all the resources that are needed. How do I get from A to Z as quickly as possible? Now, what a lot of people do is that they're familiar with the executive center, but they don't know what is it that's going to get them into and operate from the executive center. And that's an awful lot of the work that I do. So over the years, we've moved away from operation primarily in the executive center. If I was to bring you back to the time where, we lived in a cave, and at that moment, when we went out to pick berries and fruit and all that kind of sort of things, our conscious mind was focused on the task at hand, meaning our conscious mind was focused on picking the berries. The other part, which is our subconscious takes in so much information because it's using all of our senses. So we've got 6 senses. We've got our sight, we've got touch, we've got taste. You might have to help me out here because make sure I remember the 6. We got sight, taste, smell, hear, touch, yeah. And our 6 senses are gut feeling. And our gut feeling is what people would refer to as our intuition as well. So ultimately what we're doing is our subconscious mind takes in all that information because it's connected with the superconscious. Now, if your conscious mind is focused on the task, meaning it's focused on picking the berries, your subconscious mind had to be made aware of if there was a predator coming forward by way of a tiger or a bear or some other type of predator. Now, the purpose of it was that it was taking in all the information from the subconscious mind. It was feeding that information up into your executive center part of the brain. The executive center taking all that information while your conscious mind was occupied, taking all that information on board and say, well, okay, so there's a predator coming. How do I get back to my cave as quickly, as easily, and as less resources required in order to get me back into the cave as quickly as possible? That's the purpose, and that's why the executive center was created in the brain itself. It's the most amazing part of the brain when you start to look at it, start to realize it, and start to function. Okay, so how do I operate from the executive center part of the brain? Now, over the years and over the millennia, we've used less and less of the executive part of the brain. And I'm going to give you one tiny, tiny example. One activity that activates a part of the executive center is handwriting. So how much handwriting do we actually do nowadays? We do very little of it because pretty much most activities are done through a keyboard. So the very fact that we're doing less handwriting diminishes the actions or the activity of the executive center part of the brain. Now, our whole point, what we want to do, because I want to break down the mechanics of it, you as a business owner or any individual that's literally in a job, a career, or running a business, the main thing, and what a lot of the work I do, is getting individuals operating from the executive center and part of the brain. And here's the reason why. And I already said it, but I want to make sure that you catch it. The executive center is a direct link and connection to your subconscious. Your subconscious is a direct link and connection to your superconscious. That's higher power. That's higher mind. That's the universe. That's God power. That's infinite. It's infinite possibilities. So if you want to tap into literally your subconscious, taking in all your information, connecting to your superconscious, that's the mechanics. That's what you do. Now, most people don't have the links. They don't know how to do it. That's literally what I created a whole program around in order to actually make that happen. Now, we can't be in the executive center when we're in a state of fear and worry. We just can't. We're two opposites part of the brain. So how do we get out of our current situation, meaning current thinking from the perspective of fear and worry and anxiety, and move into the executive center? But there's two key exercises we want, and very, very simple exercises. First of all, we got to reset the brain. Now, even if you're worried or fearful right now at the moment, what you'll be able to experience is that the whole body starts to contract. We physically start to contract. our whole focus goes to our middle region, and we start to get into, for one better word, we start to return back into a fetal position. That's physically what happens. From our breath point of view, we actually become from a shallow breathing. So we no longer do large, deep breaths. When we're in a state of fear and stress and worry, we go into shallow breathing. Now, how we reset the brain is we take deep breaths. Which is a sequence that I give, and a lot of people use different sequences in deep breathing. This is the one I share with my clients. If there's one that, Paddy, you've come across, or other people that are watching have come across, by all means, go with what works for you. And that's the whole point. It's what's the process, or what's the technique, or what's the strategy that works for you. The one that I share with my clients, the one that I use. So, for example, let me put it this way. So I do a lot of professional speaking. I'm vice president of the Professional Speaking Association of Ireland. So I work and coach a lot of people that are doing professional speaking. And one of the techniques that I give them, even before they get on stage, now, most people will say that professional speaking is one of the most feared things to ever do in your life. Well, it's funny, because when you do it the first time, or perhaps maybe the second time, it's like a drug. You want to get back on stage again. So it actually becomes less and less fearful. But one of the techniques that I give people before they get on stage is literally this breathing exercise. Because in effect, what you're doing is you're resetting the brain, you're resetting your whole physiology in the body itself. And it's quite simple. So it's breathing in for 5 seconds. It's holding that breath for 5 seconds, and then breathing out for 5 seconds. So what you're doing is you're counting 5 seconds in your mind. Obviously, you can't verbalize it, because otherwise you won't be able to hold your breath. But let me put it this way. So it's a case, now what you do is you repeat that for a few times. It might only take you 3 times or 3 repetitions. That's it. So what you do is you breathe in for 5. So I'm going to do it, Paddy, just so people know and see what that actually looks like. So now, even just in one repetition, you can actually feel the calmness in your body. My voice has even reduced, as in the volume has reduced. My speed has probably even reduced even further then as well. So you can see literally instantly how it resets the brain. Now, if you're repeating that, meaning you're doing that, as in breathing in for 5 seconds, holding for 5 seconds, and breathing out for 5 seconds. If you're doing that repetition 3 or 4 times, you can imagine the difference it has on your body. So the whole point of what we want to do is we want to reset the brain. The quickest way that I've found in order to do that is literally that breathing exercise. Now, once you've reset the brain, now what starts to kick in is, a lot of people, again, give my history and give my background. I would have been told over years, well, look, do exercise, go for a walk, or go for, eat healthily and all that kind of sort of things. I would have been told a lot of different things. But when you're in a particular mindset, that's the last thing you want to do. Like, honestly, that's the last thing I ever wanted to do. So when you're in that mode, it's your conscious mind that's actually thinking. Now, our conscious mind is biased, meaning it's only seeing one side. It's only seeing one view. And typically, it's the negative side. Now, the law of duality is there's always both sides. You look everywhere in the world, in the universe, you will see both sides. Now, both sides meaning, if you can imagine, if you take a coin, you've got heads and tails. You've got both sides. You got positive, negative. You got hot. You got cold. Every single thing that you can think of, there's always an opposite. So there's always benefits, as equally there's always drawbacks. But our conscious mind, for most people, is drawn to what's the negatives, what's the drawbacks. So an exercise to actually reset the brain from that perspective. So instead of telling me, look, Paul, go for a walk and you feel better. No, because my conscious mind is still thinking. So how we reframe, or how we look at, okay, so how do we get the conscious mind to think of the other side? I'm going to bring you through a series of questions of what I share with my clients. So one of the primary questions, first of all, it's look at, so what are you most fearful of? Now, in the current situation, most people will feel, well, okay, my business is literally fallen off a cliff. The amount of turnover that I'm getting it's gone. It's just obliterated. Maybe I'm going to be doing a small amount of turnover, but literally it's not enough to cover what I need right now at the moment. So whether it be staff, whether it be rates, overheads, rent, whatever it might be, and so on. Now, in fairness to the government, they've put in a huge amount of subsidies into helping and trying to support employees and business owners right now at the moment, between mortgage deferrals and this, that, and the other. But if you go a little bit further, and so, yeah, but what are you most fearing? And for a lot of people, it'll be around their family unit. So I'm most fearing, for example, losing my house, because my business is literally, it's giving me the income in order to actually buy food on the table for my family and to pay for my rent or my mortgage on my house itself. So for most people in this current situation, that's literally, if you were to drill it all down, that's the fear comes up. Now, if that's the fear, again, I'm going to remind you back, fear is an anticipation of a future event that we perceive poses a risk to ourselves. It hasn't happened yet. Now, how we get our conscious mind around that particular thinking is, what actual evidence do I have that makes those negative thoughts factual? What makes them to be true? Now, right now at the moment, I can work with any single individual, and I've done this so many over the recession and over the years. When we start to look at a fear of a future event, and we ask that question from the conscious mind, what actual evidence do I have that supports the fact of these negative thoughts to be actually true? There is no evidence, but you still got to ask the question. So again, it's all about trying to get the conscious mind around to the evidence and the knowledge to see both sides. Now, if there's no evidence showing up that that's actually true, well, then it's false. So therefore, that's the first step to removing that fear and removing that worry. I'm not losing my house as of this particular moment in time. Now, the next question then what you want to have is, so what's the evidence that I do have that makes the negative thoughts to be false? Well, I'm getting support from the government. I've deferred my mortgage. I've deferred my rent and my rates. I'm looking at new ways of how I drive business or be innovative and creative within the business itself. That's what the evidence you want to gather. Now, let me put you a little trick, because if you remember earlier on in this, I said to you that one of the things that activates the executive center of the brain is handwriting. Okay, this is not an exercise that you do on a keyboard, and it's not an exercise that you do conceptually. You handwrite it. So I'm giving you that little trick in order to actually get you back in to the executive center part of the brain. Now, so if you start to write down all the things, all the evidence that makes those negative thoughts be false, you're literally going to be left with literally a list of, oh my God, here's all the things I've already done by way in order to prevent my house being, that I'm going to lose my house or be repossessed or whatever it might be, and so on. So now when you see all the actions that you've taken, but you're going to create more actions from literally just doing that exercise, because you're bringing it into the executive center, you're going to think of more things. Oh my God, I could do X, Y, and Z in order to literally prevent that event happening. That's the purpose of fear. The purpose of fear and worry is to give us feedback. It's literally the body's way of giving us feedback. You've got to do something different. You've got to take an action. You've got to think slightly differently. Now, people get sucked into, well, the fear and the worry, and what I refer to as castle building, meaning they build the most amazing, enormous things in their mind, but they actually don't deal with the situation. If you understand that fear is a feedback mechanism, that you're attached to something, or there's something that you need to change, well, then now you see it in a completely different way, and therefore, what do I need to do in order to make my trajectory in life or my business completely different? So when you're starting to list out what are all the evidence that I have that makes those negative thoughts false, well, then what actually happens, you're going to get more information, because again, if you're connecting into your executive center is connected into your subconscious is connected with your superconscious. That's where all the other ideas start to come from. Now, the next question that you want to start asking yourself is, okay, so what are the benefits of me experiencing this moment in time? And I tell you, the benefits are enormous. Now, I know you're not going to see that immediately until such times you actually do the exercise and handwrite out the exercise. But let me put it this way. I've had a lot of these conversations, Paddy, over literally the last couple of weeks, and I've been running weekly webinars in order literally to help and support people. And the kind of questions and feedback that I get is, literally, when I bring people back to the point of when they were in their business full-time, pre-COVID, or in their career, and they're there in their business saying, oh my gosh, do you know what? I wish I could spend a little bit more time with my family. I wish I could go for a walk. I wish I could do this. I wish I could do that. I wish I could do this. I wish I could do that. That's what they've been wishing. You got to be careful what you wish for, because that's what you have. So if we were to look at the globe, meaning the earth right now at the moment, and look at what are all the benefits of COVID as a result, what are the benefits of COVID on the earth as a result of that happening? Most people, most minds are drawn to all the negatives. We're locked in, where we can't do anything, we can't move, we can't go to our coffee shops, we can't go to the pubs, we can't go to restaurants, we can't do all that kind of side of things. But what are all the benefits to earth? And there's so many different examples of what actually happened from a pollution perspective. In different countries, people are able to see mountains that they've never seen before that are hundreds of miles away. Fish return into the oceans, fish return into the canals in where was it, Venice or Vienna or somewhere. So all this thing is happening from a global perspective, and that's a macro level. Bring it back down and chunk it down to a micro level. What are all the benefits that people are experiencing right now at the moment in their houses? They're playing with their kids a little bit more. They're having much, much deeper conversations with their partners, their friends, their family, and so on, through Zoom, through different media of how they're doing it. They're thinking slightly different about their business. They're being more creative, more innovative of what can I do. They're literally the most amazing thing. And I find the universe absolutely amazing. In Ireland, we normally have bad weather, Paddy, yeah?
Yeah.
So literally, when COVID hit, we've had no end of literally good weather. So people have been able to go out for a walk within the 2 kilometre limit, I have to say. People have been able to go for a walk while COVID has been actually happening. Prior to COVID, we had been battered by storms. The universe works in the most amazing way. When you get to see what's happening from a positive and negative point of view, you'll actually see the complexity of how the universe works. And you literally just sit back in awe of how it works. So there's so many different benefits of what literally happened from a macro level as well as a micro level in as a result of COVID. Bring it back to you and your business. When you start to look and search for the benefits of this moment in time, of how it's actually served you in this moment of time, now what you're seeing is both sides, the law of duality. You're seeing both sides. You're seeing the negatives, but you're also seeing the positives. Now, when you start to see the benefits and you start to say, okay, so here's how the current situation is serving me right now at the moment, I want to go one step further. Now, while you're in your business and while you were in your career or whatever it might be, you would have been getting nudges as regards, do you know what? Maybe you should do X, Y, and Z for your business. Maybe you should pivot your business, or pivot a business means that you change course slightly. It's a bit like if you can imagine that you're piloting a big, huge tanker. In order for you to change course, all you need to do is literally change the dial slightly to navigate. And literally, instead of you going one way, just by changing a couple of degrees, you move the tanker to literally a couple of degrees. The trajectory for that tanker is completely different. Pivoting the business, that's primarily what I do with business owners. When we start to pivot a business, they end up in a completely different trajectory. But what you find is that you're getting nudges, you're getting thoughts, you're getting inspiration, you're getting different things showing up in your life in order to encourage you to literally pivot your business slightly, because the subconscious mind connected to the superconscious knows where you're supposed to end up. It knows your purpose. It knows where is going to be the most absolute phenomenal benefit for you. It's a lot of the work that I do with my clients. Now, when you look at it from that perspective, all those nudges, those moments of inspiration, those thoughts that came into your mind, say, oh, I should do X and I should do Y, and we should do, for example, I should do videos, I should do podcasts, you should do webinars. I'd never done webinars, but all of a sudden, in the last couple of weeks, I'm starting to do webinars. I've never done them before. So we're starting to do things that we thought about before, but never did before. If you look at and ask yourself the question, what is COVID doing right now at the moment? How is it serving you to be on your purpose, to what you're supposed to be doing, to where you're supposed to bring your business? If you ask yourself from that perspective, then you'll see it in a completely different way. So if you view COVID as being, okay, now this is enabling me to do part of where I want to might get my business to. In my case, for example, yeah, I've thought about doing webinars before, but I've never done them. Literally within 2 weeks, or literally within a week, I was starting to do webinars. That's how it served me in order to do something that sometimes we need a bit of a kick up the ass to do the things that we need to do. Yeah, we're human nature. So ask yourself the question, how is it serving you in order to actually do what you know you want to be doing, or you know you need to be doing? The next question you want to ask yourself is, what's a more objective way of looking at my current situation right now at the moment? And I'm using objective purposely. Objective means that you're seeing a balanced view. You're seeing both sides. You're seeing positives and you're seeing negatives. So an objective way is, yeah, I'm seeing all these negatives. It's constricting from this point of view, turnover's down and so on. However, I've got these list of benefits. And the list of benefits far outweighs literally the negativities. At least you want to get them equal, but I can guarantee you can get them to outweigh. That's a more objective view. When you're seeing things from an objective perspective, you're seeing both sides. Everything that you got to do with your business, with your life, is seeing both sides. What a lot of business owners do that I come across is whereby they think it's doing something, but they're biased, meaning their mind is completely biased towards all the positives of doing something. They never look at the negatives. Now, if they don't look at the negatives or the drawbacks of doing something, that's not an objective view. So therefore, when a crisis happens or something happens in down the road whereby what they were working on isn't working anymore, they haven't planned for that event. Every single thing that you got to do in your life and in your business has to be from an objective view standpoint. When you're looking, so let me put it to you this way. If there's something that you want to do in your business, you take what you're looking at trying to do in your business. Let's just say, for example, webinars is just one example that I'm doing right now at the moment. I know, Paddy, you're encouraging your customers and Leo's encouraging his customers to literally, there's so many different things that can be done. It's phenomenal, the number of things that can be done. But when you're looking at something, you got to say, okay, so look, what are all the benefits, which is what you naturally are drawn towards, but also what are the drawbacks, what are all the negatives of doing that? Now, when you start to look at the negatives, okay, so how do I plan or mitigate against each one of those negatives? So now you've got a plan to dissolve any one of those negatives if they do actually happen in the future. That's an objective view. That's the whole purpose of being objective in business. That's why business plans are put together. That's why forecasts are put together. It's all about future planning and saying, how do I mitigate anything that might happen in the future? You still go ahead, but once you got a plan in order to mitigate what the negatives that can actually happen, well, then you're on the right road. Next thing you want to review is, how do you feel? So when you go through that exercise and you're writing it all down, you're writing the answers, and you literally just sit back in your chair, how do I feel? Because the more in tune, I use that question for a particular reason. It's not just a throwaway question, I feel good. No, it's not. Don't just say, I feel great. That's not what it's about. It's literally, how do I feel? And the reason why I'm asking that question of people is for them to literally go into their body and say, how do I feel? How you getting in tune with our inside. The reason why I'm doing that is for you to connect with your intuition, connect with your subconscious. That's why I'm asking the question, how do you feel? It's not just a throwaway question. So when you get back down into how do I feel, now you're opening that communication between your executive center, between your mind and your subconscious mind. That's part of the reason why I'm asking that question. And then the next question I ask, there's 7 questions in total. Next question I ask is that, okay, so what's the learning or what's the positives that you can take, the positive actions that you can take right now at the moment as a result of just doing that exercise? When you come out of that exercise, again, bear in mind what I've done. I've moved you from the amygdala to the executive center. I've moved you from looking at all the fears and the worries to literally, okay, all the benefits, how it's all served me, how it's moved me towards my purpose, my mission, what it is I want to actually do with the business itself. Out of all of that, you're going to come up with more and more actions, positive actions, what you can do in order to deal with your fear, perceived fear beforehand of, I might lose my house, as opposed to actually taking action from the perspective, what do I do within the business itself? That's the whole purpose of that structure. It's 7 questions, but it's one of the most powerful structures that I can give people right now at the moment in dealing with their situation at this point in time, Paddy.
Great information there, Paul.
You're welcome.
Yeah, no, really, really good. Probably there's one thing, I was actually reading a study. It's just interesting you talk about the conscious and subconscious mind. Yesterday, I was reading a study yesterday, and I was about the subconscious mind and how the subconscious mind picks up a lot more information of what's going around. They did these fMRI scans and showing images really, really quick. The subconscious picked it up, the conscious not picked it up. So I suppose there's a big message there for us. Be very careful to what we're listening to, what we're surrounding. If there's news in the background, subconscious is picking it up. And
totally. There's one thing. So I use the terminology conscious thinking. Now, so I don't listen to an awful lot of news. I don't even be on social media channels. I flick it just to connect with particular friends, but I don't read an awful lot of stuff that's on social media. And the reason being, I'll give you the example. If you can imagine going into, your favorite, when we get back post-COVID, okay? Yeah. So you imagine going back into your favorite coffee shop, okay? And you're walking up to the counter and you're saying, okay, right, I'm going to have, a cappuccino or whatever it might be. And you're looking at that glazed counter and you're saying, oh my God, look at all those sticky buns. And if you were to, I just want you to think about this and get into the moment of literally visualizing all those sticky buns looking at you and saying, well, okay, if I had one sticky bun, it's not so bad. If I had a second sticky bun, what impact would that have? If I had a third, a fourth, a fifth, a sixth, a seventh sticky bun, we know the difference it would literally make to our body, to ourselves, true?
Yeah.
So we have a choice. Every single time we're standing there in front of that counter, we're making a choice as regards whether we have a sticky bun or whether we have something more healthy. We might have a granola bar or whatever it might be, okay? Now, if we're making those conscious decisions about what we're putting into our mouth because we know the impact of what actually has on our body, we should be making exactly the same conscious decisions in every single thought that we allow into our mind. And you're absolutely right, Paddy, from the perspective, there's our conscious mind, there's our subconscious. So all the information that's being bombarded right now at the moment, what are you doing to be filtered or be selective in what you're allowing into your mind right now at the moment? And just think of it from the perspective of, okay, do I want to allow more sticky buns into my mind, or actually do I want more healthy stuff? Yeah. Absolutely. It's critical.
Yeah. Probably, when we're tired as well, tiredness, when tiredness kicks in.
It does, yeah.
The brain gets a little bit lazy.
It does, because of comfort. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thanks a million, Paul. Really appreciate it. And we look forward to catching up with you again soon.
Yeah, very welcome. Look,
thank you very much, Paul.
If there's the free weekly webinars that I'm doing, if people want to go to those webinars, by all means they can. It's not a problem. They don't have to sign up. The recordings are there. They can get those weekly, just by way of how I can support people right now at the moment through the current crisis. Listen,
is there your website, Paul, are they?
Yeah, they're on my website. So you go to Davis Business Consultants.
Yeah.
And davisbusinessconsultants.com. And there's a link there saying COVID-19. If you click on the link, you'll see all the recordings of the past webinars. And then my next webinar is coming up this Thursday. So look, it's from my whole point, it's literally to help and support people right now at the minute and get through this crisis. All right. You're very welcome.
That's great, Paul. Thank you very much.